Hey, welcome to Sharing Hope. Good to have you today. I'm Michael DiMuccio, your host, and with us is Chris Norton. If you've not heard about Chris Norton, I'll tell you, you are in for a treat today. What a story and what an incredible young man. I'll tell you what, Chris suffered a spinal cord injury back in 2010 playing college football in Iowa. Doctors gave him a 3% chance to ever move anything below his neck again. Well, Chris absolutely defied the odds. 4 years later, he walks across the stage to receive his college diploma with his then fiancee, Emily Summers. The video goes viral, over 300 million views, caught the eye of all the top tier US media outlets from, gosh, Good Morning America, Today's Show, NBC Nightly News, CBS, USA Today, Sports Illustrated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then, 3 years after that, Chris attempts another incredible feat, and this time, perhaps the most important walk of his life, and it was 7 yards down the aisle as he married his fiancee, Emily. As with his graduation, I'll tell you what, Chris prepared hours, 4 or 5 hours a day in the gym to prepare for that day. And I'll tell you, he and Emily have joyfully conquered that challenge. They walked that 7 yards down the aisle, and it symbolized the 7-year anniversary of his injury. Their story, once again, at that point, captured really global attention, where not only the top tier US media outlets, but Germany, Italy, London, just to name a few. Now Chris is a well-respected motivational speaker. He speaks at numerous events across the country. He was recently named to ITA Group's 2018 Hottest Speakers list. And that was alongside Michael Strahan, Magic Johnson, Mark Cuban. And his message focuses on the fact that we will all face challenges, but our circumstances don't define us. We do. And we're going to hear more from his heart in a little bit later. So with inspiring anecdotes, his spiritual life, his faith, his family, his entertaining way, an impactful way of touching lives. He speaks, and I'll tell you what, he's co-authored a book with his father, and then he and his wife, Emily, co-authored another book called The 7 Longest Yards, and that foreword was by Tim Tebow in that book. And now he's got a documentary coming out a little bit later this year titled 7 Yards, The Chris Norton Story. Chris has also created the Chris Norton Foundation. It's a nonprofit, helps those with spinal cord injury. He also hosts the Chris Norton Wheelchair Camp, which really is, I'll tell you what, inspiring people to live their lives even from a wheelchair. I mean, doing archery and all kinds of activities, incredible. He and his wife, Emily, they've adopted 5 amazing girls, 21-year-old all the way down to 4 years old. They have also fostered 18 children. They're deeply committed to touching lives, providing safe, loving home for their children in need, and they're truly a remarkable couple. They positively impact all those around them, as you can imagine. So, Chris, thank you for joining Sharing Hope today.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that introduction. It's an honor to be here and to share hope with the listeners, viewers of this program.
Awesome. Well, man, I'll tell you what, I know they're going to be inspired today. So I'm taking in all of your story, and I've been looking at it the last couple of years on and off, and recently preparing for the interview, I've seen, so many clips of you being interviewed and whatnot. And, all this largely came about because you said, in essence, I'm not going to focus on the 97% that the doctors are saying. I'm going to focus on the 3% chance that I can start moving things. So, take us through that journey from the moment you hear, hey, you've got only a 3% chance of ever moving anything again. Take us through that. What was your mindset? What did you start verbalizing, and what did you start doing?
Yeah, well, my world was completely flipped upside down. I was just this strong athlete. I was an independent college student, and then all of a sudden, I'm motionless. I can't move or feel a thing. I'm dependent on everything and everyone. And it was just really hard to kind of wrestle with that fact of how quickly my life changed. And something that I really had to battle with is choosing faith over fear, because I had so many fears and I just kept thinking about my life and what's it going to look like. But something, going back to my faith and knowing that it says that, God has a plan for me, a plan to prosper me and give me hope for a future and not to harm me. And although that was hard to believe given the circumstance, I chose to believe in those words and have that faith. And that wasn't an easy decision. It was a decision I had to make daily. And so it kind of gave me this permission and this motivation to go to work and to change it. And so the only thing I could do was to nod my head yes and no. And I nodded my head yes and no for hours. I looked like a giant bobblehead just bouncing my head around. But I was determined to do anything, no matter what it was, to go a little bit better, because I know that my future will take care of itself when I take care of today. And so I kept pouring in, what can I do today? And I'm really also thankful not only to have my faith as like a foundation to kind of keep believing in, but I also had other people pouring into me. I had my family, I had friends, and even a few of the staff really helped pour into me to help choose that faith and hope and not to live in fear.
Wow. Now, when, one of the clips I saw, I think it was in the trailer to your documentary, that you began like basically verbalizing or speaking out, I think I want to walk across the stage for my graduation. That like became this goal. Like, was that a couple of years into your working it out, or was that like something that motivated you from the beginning? Like, how did you get that vision and start working towards that?
Yeah, no, I was pretty stubborn. Like, I was like bound and determined. Like, you're not going to tell me, like, no. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to get my life back, get my movement back. And so I'm a goal setter. Like, I need a goal. I need something to work towards. And it just felt like a great way to kind of close out college by walking across the stage, when that's the way I entered college, was walking. And so I kind of want to exit the same way. And something that really helped pour into me, though, came in early on. It was about the fourth night of my hospital stay. And at nighttime, though, was the worst. That's when all my doubts and fears just poured in, all the questioning and wondering, like, is this worth it? Like, is it ever going to pay off all my time and effort? And then about like 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning, something really late, this physician comes in to check my vitals, and which is typical. Someone checks my vitals every 2 hours. But then she does something different. She comes over to my bedside. She gets down on one knee and she says, "Chris, look me in the eyes." And she was kind of mean about it. And so I lock eyes with this woman. She's like this short, slender-haired lady, probably in her 60s. And she has this voice that sounds like she came straight out of a Western movie. And she says, "My name is Georgia. I'm from Wyoming. Do you know anyone from Wyoming?" And I say no. And I'm just thinking, where is this going? And she says, "Well, people from Wyoming don't tell lies. And I want you to know, you will beat this."
Wow.
You will beat this. And I instantly just started crying. Like, couldn't believe what she was telling me. And she helped restore kind of my faith and my hope in that moment, and just kind of reinforce the idea that it is worth it. I need to keep going. I need to keep trying. So this Dr. Georgia was like this angel that came into my life, spoke life over me, and kind of told me to keep going. Like, you have to keep fighting. And so I really believed in that. So every single time I was dealt bad news or I had a setback, I just kept holding on to those words of, you will beat this. And so I just kept setting goals after goals and keep pushing. Even when I didn't meet my goals, many times I didn't meet my goals. So I just readjusted. And I kept working and focusing on what I can do, what can I control, because I couldn't control the rate of my recovery. I could control how many hours I put into the day, how many reps I did, how much time I spent, but I could not control how quickly things would respond, which was difficult, but I just kept my eyes and focus on the controllables, and I just kept working, and eventually it was a graduation walk, and spent thousands of hours trying to make sure I can get across that stage, because when I set that goal, I needed 3 or 4 people to help me walk to even like a couple feet. So I had a long ways to go.
Wow. So now take us through that. You walk the stage, right? And the video goes viral, over 300 million views. Like, were you ready for that kind of attention? Like, how did you manage all that attention after that walk? Like, did you have a publicist? Like, like all these things go through my head. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, no publicist. It was like drinking out of a fire hose. We were not ready at all. Like, we were hoping that, I had a friend there who was going to videotape it. And we just got to thinking, man, how cool would it be if like the local news or someone would pick it up and they would share it locally, and it could really inspire or give someone else hope to keep going and keep fighting. But then all of a sudden it just exploded, which like every major news outlet in the world wanted that video and they wanted that story. And so, Emily and I, we just kept going from one interview to the next. And the thing is, we weren't living in Iowa where all this was taking place. And so we only had one like change of clothes for like dress attire. So we kept having to go back to the mall to get more clothes for our interviews as they kept popping up. So it's just like one interview to the next, and we didn't want to wear the same outfit every single time. So we kept having to go get more clothes, and it was pretty insane how quickly things worked. Like I just remember I thought it was all over, and then like early morning I get a phone call. It was NBC Nightly News, and they wanted to be there in 1 hour. And I was like, sure, like come on in, like we'll get ready. But it worked really fast, and it was a really exciting time for us just to be able to share our story and just hopefully, spread hope.
Amen to that. My goodness, what a journey. And then, shortly after, you co-author a book with your dad. And I did see him on the Good Morning America show in the wings, and I could tell he was so proud of his son. What was it like? We'll talk a little bit about your relationship with your father. And what was it like co-authoring a book with him?
Yeah, my dad, he's my hero. I love him. He has always given me such a positive example. I just feel so blessed. I had have a father like him, someone that I can always call when I have a trouble or a big decision to make. He's always my go-to person to kind of talk it out, think through things. But, growing up as a kid, I was super competitive. Like, I wanted to win at rock, paper, scissors, no matter what sport it was, any card game. I was very competitive, and my dad was this coach. Like, he was like this motivator. So he really helped kind of groom me and channel my competitiveness to skill and dedication and effort and this positive attitude. So he really kind of helped prepare me for the most challenging times in my life with my spinal cord injury. And then when everything was just devastated, my dad was there. My family was there by my side. They were my rock. They just kept speaking life into me, giving me hope and this belief that we're going to get through this. I don't care what it takes. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, we're in this together, and we will see through it to the end. And so knowing the whole time that I was never going to go through any of these difficulties alone, and I had them to always lean on. And then with the book writing process, was really eye-opening. And it was eye-opening because I learned a lot about my family, my parents, and what they were going through during these times, because I thought they had it like they had no cracks in the armor, that they
Mm.
had all together. They were so confident that everything was going to work out exactly as we hoped it would. But behind the scenes, they were struggling. They were scared.
Mm.
They held it together for me. They knew they had to stay strong for me and give me that
Mm.
role model to look after and to look up to. And so I'm really thankful for that, and just also knowing the sacrifices that they made for me is incredibly humbling, and it just inspires me to want to be a dad like the father I had.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was just thinking, you yourself are a family man. You know, you're a husband, you're a father to five, and
Yeah.
you fostered 18 children. So you've had a good role model with your dad. Talk about your family life a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a full household. Right now in our house, we have a year and a half year old, a 4 year old, a
Wow.
6 year old, a 9 year old, and a 10 year old. So a full house, and we also have a 21 year old. She doesn't live with us, but so really we have 6 kids. Yeah, like you said, I fostered 18, adopted 5 of them, and every day is a adventure. It's controlled chaos. Um, if you can handle loud noises and music and just chaos, this would be the place for you, because there's always singing and dancing and playing going on in our house.
Right. I was actually going to say, what does a typical day look like? But I was thinking there's probably not a typical day with that many kids running around the house.
Yes, nothing's very typical. What is typical, it's pretty hard to get work done with a full household, especially with the pandemic and everything going on. It's been a little slow going, but it's been so fun, though. I've had a chance to really connect with my kids, even on a deeper level, just because you're together all the time. There's no soccer practices or dance practices or recital. There's no, for me, speaking events. And so everything's kind of slowed down, but we've made the most of it, and we've really taken advantage of just spending time together.
Very good. And I'll bet that quality time is so important. Now, what tell us the story of how you met Emily. I believe it was after the injury, right?
It was, yeah. So it was about 3 years after my injury. We met online, and we just kind of started a conversation there. And pretty quickly, I was pretty interested in her, and she was interested in me. And we made it work. We're going to meet up at this public hot dog stand in the middle of Iowa State University, and it's where she was going to school at the time. And so we were trying to figure out, the right time to meet up. And I even suggested, hey, why don't you come over to my friend's house, or where I'm staying at? And she's like, no, I'm not going to go to a stranger's house, which makes sense. But then she suggests, what if I come pick you up in my little yellow cart that she has? And I'm just thinking, oh man, like, does she realize, like, I'm in a wheelchair? Like, this, you can't just pick me up in a car. Like, there's a lot
Right.
of work to be done. And so I remember before we met, like, I was just sweating, thinking, like, she has no idea maybe who she's meeting, or what's, all the challenges that come with being in a wheelchair. But pretty quickly, I realized, though, that she's just got this big heart, and she doesn't really care about the outside, the challenges. She was more wanting to get to know me for me, and who I am as a person. And she was very curious about, how did I maintain a positive attitude and still do with all the challenges that I face. And we just kind of built a connection. And before we knew it, we were dating.
Wow, wow, what a cool story. And yeah, I believe it was on the trailer of 7 Yards where she says, Chris was everything I was looking for in a man. And so, what a neat story that is in and of itself. Like you said, all these questions in your mind. Does she know who she's meeting? Is she going, well, but you were everything she did. Like you just said, it was you. Now, you also said, I think in another publication, that she's your toughest trainer.
Yeah.
Does she have a background in training, or she's just a cheerleader, or like what's where's that motivation or drive come from in her?
Well, she's a very like independent, smart, passionate person. So like she just, when she loves you and she just wants the best for you. And when I, voiced to her this goal that I want to walk across the stage at my college graduation, and then with the wedding walk, she was all about it. Like my goal became her goal, which is really
Wow.
special. And she just pushed me, encouraged me to keep going after. And she really just helped me accomplish both those goals. And I'm just really grateful that she is kind of a pushy person, because I also had fears to become a dad. Like I had a lot of fears about what that would look like, and with my physical limitations, how much I could help. But Emily was persistent, and she again kind of gave me a push of, hey, we can do this. Like we can handle this. I got you. Like we're in good hands. And so I had trust and in faith in her that we could do it. And she was absolutely right. And it's been the best thing that we've ever done, is to open our home to kids in the foster care system. And obviously it led to our daughters, and we know our family is just going to keep growing. And it's such a blessing to just help these kids feel loved and special and safe.
Sure. Now, going back to the origins of this Sharing Hope site, and where all these interviews are posted and whatnot, it was largely in part because it was in wake of basically the COVID-19 crisis. And seemingly, it's been several months now, and things are beginning to open up slowly. So I presume you haven't been doing a lot of speaking. I know that's big part of your life is speaking engagements. But here, though this might not be a live event that you're used to preaching and speaking at, you do have an online audience. So what kind of what kind of changes has this had on your family, if much? But also, what could you offer our viewers, if they were getting a mini sermon from you? What PowerPoints could you throw out to them?
Yeah. So as far as changes, even with the reopening right now that's going on, we're still like in lockdown. Like we're staying home. We're keeping our distance and staying away, from people as much as possible. Just because our youngest one that we're fostering, he was born premature. He has compromised lungs, so he's just in a more vulnerable group that could be seriously impacted from the coronavirus. And also myself, because of my injury, it impacted my lungs and the ability to breathe. And so the fact that the coronavirus impacts your lungs, myself, I am kind of a more vulnerable group. So we're really pretty sticklers about sanitation and just keeping our distance and not going to restaurants. Even the things that are opened up, we're still not doing any of those things. So we have been home for a long time. But again, that comes with blessings too, of just really connecting and bonding together. But then again, so as far as my messaging and kind of what I hope people take away is, I hope people can see that life's lowest moments can be the source of our greatest gifts. And sometimes when things feel that they're falling apart, they're actually falling right into place.
Wow.
And even if you don't know where you're going, just keep going. Take one step in front of the other. Don't give up. And I hope too that you can see through my story, when I had no idea what I was doing, why I was doing it, but just kept moving forward, kept taking action. It turned into what I feel is a beautiful life. I love my life. And I feel really grateful for everything that I've gone through and I've had. And if I could go back and change that play and rewind it, and I wouldn't do it. Like I could not take back all the blessings that have come into my life. And it just would be crazy for me to do that. It led to my family and this work. I love speaking. The documentary, the book. Like I love all that stuff. I love the opportunity to inspire people. So it'd be crazy of me to ever want to take that back. So I just hope that everyone who's listening, watching, they find that same strength inside of them. Like I'm not special. Like I'm not a hero or anything by any means. I've chosen just to keep going, to lean on my faith in times when I felt really fearful, and I still have challenges. Every day I have challenges. I have to make that choice that I'm gonna live with a positive attitude. And when things don't go my way, when I can't do something physically, that's frustrating. I'm gonna look at what I can do, and those aren't easy choices, but those are daily practices that I'm always implementing, and I'm always reminding myself. And so I hope people can come along that journey with me and constantly try to remind myself to look at the good and just keep moving forward.
Incredible, incredible. That journey is now going to be a documentary, as we said, coming out a little bit later this year. So, talk about the creation of this documentary. What was it like going through that? Maybe being on the sets, and then also, speak to the what you're personally anticipating and or hoping
Mhm.
comes of this documentary.
I'm really excited for the documentary because this documentary is not going to be one of a bunch of talking heads. It's going to be a very engaging film because there's a ton of reenactments and footage that's throughout the video, throughout the movie. So we did things like reenacted my football injury and me
Wow.
being tended to by the athletic trainers and the paramedics. We
Wow.
had a helicopter and they loaded me into the helicopter. So it was pretty surreal having to relive those moments.
Wow.
It was kind of eerie because we were on the same field that I got hurt, like the exact same spot, to really recreate everything that happened so that people who watch this documentary, they can be there too, because we didn't have all the footage to everything that took place, but because we kind of reenacted, recreated some of those moments, we really want to put people there with us and what happened in the story. And also, too, what's really cool is that this documentary shares stories and parts of my story that have really never been told, that have really never been well
Mm.
covered. So I'm really excited for people to see a whole different viewpoint of everything that's taken place and how I got to where I am today. So we're really looking forward to figuring out where the film's going to land. The film agent is having conversations about distribution, so we're just kind of waiting and hoping that it lands in the right hands and it gets shared all across the world, and people are just inspired to not give up, to keep trying, to look at all the blessings that they have in their life and choose not to dwell on the problems and challenges they may be dealing with.
Sure, sure. Now, in the documentary, do they put the helmet and shoulder pads on you to reenact some of those things? And
Yeah, I was padded up. Like I had all my football gear, which was pretty fun to
that's
get all
awesome.
geared up again. It felt like, yeah, I was back to being a football player again, which was pretty cool. I never thought, in a million years I'd ever put the pads and the helmet and the cleats back on, but we did it all for the film. We went all out.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah,
Mhm.
I saw some clips and I saw like the whole helicopter thing, and I wasn't sure from the clip if that was you in the gurney, but you just revealed that you actually like went through that whole experience again. That is really, really something. I'm looking forward to that coming out. And yeah, I've been sharing your clip with some friends and my team at work, and I'll tell you what, even just the trailer is powerful and moving. And so, you know what? Why don't we start landing the plane here, Chris? Why don't you give our viewers, how do they get in touch with the trailer and or your motivational speaking, if people wanted to invite you, like give us some direction, links, clips, or where do people get information from you?
Yeah, I would say a great spot to go to learn about pretty much everything is my website, chrisnorton.org, which you can find the movie trailer. You can find information about my book, my speaking, my nonprofit, and like the wheelchair camp. My Instagram is Chris A Norton 16, and that's really where I kind of keep a lot of updates on what's going on with me and my family. I have an email newsletter, and you also got to check out too 7yardsfilm.com to get all the updates and learn more about the movie too. So those are two great spots to keep up with what we're going on.
Very good. Well, brother, keep up the good work. Keep inspiring, and man, as you're motivating yourself every day, you're motivating many, many others. So what a blessing it's been. I want to encourage our viewers, go check out 7yardsfilm.com. Go to Chris's site, get more information, and keep your eyes and ears open for the documentary coming out. Chris, thank you again for coming on and for sharing hope.
Thank you so much for having me on. I hope everyone continues to choose hope and sharing hope.